Welcome to Heart with Joyous J. I'm your host, Janice Pettigrew, affectionately known as Joyous Janice. This podcast is dedicated to providing encouragement and support as we travel together unearthing the powerful and awesome person within just waiting to emerge. Hi everybody. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about living life without regret. I find myself thinking these past few weeks about my life in general, my experiences, things I've gone through, how I handled them. And to be perfectly honest, there were times when I could have made better choices, better decisions, but a lot of things came about because I did not know better. The trick is, once you know better, is to learn from past mistakes. That's what I call the life without regrets. You know, I have discovered in this past year or so that I have spent more time at home than I have in the past 10 years of my life. That's a lot of time in comparison to all the time I spent outside of the home, working, doing my projects, speaking engagements, running my nonprofit, which I don't have anymore, but all of those things made me who I am. And I found myself having this weird dream the other night. I know, we all can have dreams, and sometimes you can wake up and they'll still be fresh on your mind. Well, this dream was actually about a real experience. I thought about that young girl who so desperately wanted friends that she disobeyed her parents' rules and went to a classmate's house after school instead of going straight home. As a result of that disobedience, she did find herself in a predicament that colored life choices for many years. And I say that because I know I've shared this before on other episodes of being gang raped when I was 13 and holding it secret inside until I was well into my 30s. It was a long time before I actually told my mother what had happened to me. But the consequences of that decision of mine lingered long past the initial experience. So when I woke up, I grabbed my journal. Yes, I keep it by my bedside and I write things down because sometimes I like to go back and just reflect on what it is that I've written down or what thoughts that may have jumped into my head. So I wrote down in the journal, why did I have this dream? And I thought about it a lot. And I realized that I've been stuck in this house for so many months now, feeling stir crazy and questioning my life. You know, what meaning did it really have? Had I made an impact in anyone's life? And guess what? I discovered I had. Because it took me back to a time when I was invited by a church to come and speak to the women's group. And when I spoke with them, the subject matter was one in which I was really able to share my experience as a young girl and how it colored a lot of my choices and decisions going forward. And I remember during Q&A, a young lady raised her hand and she asked me, "Do you regret what happened to you? And if you could you go back and change it? Would you go back and change it?" And I thought about that for just a split second or two. And then I honestly answered, Though it may have hurt, though it may have been traumatic, I don't regret what happened to me, because what happened to me became a part of me. It shaped me, and it put me in a position where I was at that day, sharing that story and allowing someone in that audience the courage to open up and to share. So I had many women speak to me afterwards about their own experiences and how they kept it hidden for so long, and because they were so ashamed. And we were able to talk together and share. And I pray at that time that I encouraged them to don't think less of themselves, but to take the lessons that could be learned from the experience. Because now you're a little bit more cautious. It doesn't say don't trust people, but set some better boundaries. And that's one of the lessons I learned from my experience. So I have learned not to regret any of my experiences. I used to regret, in all the years I've worked, I've been let go of a job 3 times, and each time it hurt very badly. And I remember spending several days and maybe weeks going through my mind what I could have done differently to prevent my being let go. And one instance in particular helped me to put it all into perspective. Many years ago, when I was let go, it was at a time where, I felt really low. And it took a lot of years, 3 years, before I was able to get another job. And within that time frame, we nearly lost our home a couple of times. Money was extremely tight. I went through my savings, and even what little I had managed to save for my 401k, I had to dip into it just to stay afloat. But the biggest thing about that, I learned that there was a blessing in disguise. Okay, yeah, I know you're thinking, how could there be a blessing in disguise? Simple. At the time that I lost that job, my sister-in-law was going through something very serious. She had not too long been pronounced healthy and well after going through breast cancer, and her beautiful hair had grown back. Of course, it was a little unruly. It did what it wanted to do, but it was long and luscious and dark and was beginning to be thick again. But she began to feel sick again and having pain that she couldn't explain, and she found herself going back and forth to doctors and not really getting any answers. So here's the blessing in that. Because I was without a job, I was able to get up out of my bed one night when she called me and get on my computer and start looking for some other doctors that could see her. Because my determination was, these people aren't making a decision about what's going on, what's wrong with you. Let's get you somebody else. And the next day, I went with her to the appointment that was made. I took her there, and they did tests. And a few days later, she and my brother actually went back to the doctor to get the results. And turns out cancer was back. But because cancer was back, and my brother, truck driver, was on the road a lot, and they had 4 kids actually. The oldest was in high school. The 2 oldest actually were in high school, but you know how that is with high school boys. They have their mindset is different than being stuck at home with the 2 younger ones. But because I didn't have a job, I was able to be there for them. I went over just about every day. I cooked, I cleaned, I looked after Betty, and I just was there as she needed. Sometimes I'd just sit by her bed as she got sicker and just kept her company. Yeah, I didn't want anything, didn't need anything. I just wanted to be there. And when she lost the battle, I continued to go there to be someone that my brother could depend on to look out for the kids because he still had to work. So there was a blessing in the loss of my job. So I don't regret losing that job. A few months later, I actually did finally get another job, but it was only after things had been resolved to a point where my brother could take over. So here's the key. We should never ever live our life with regret. Because if you live life with regret, then how can you enjoy the blessings that are there? You actually look so far past those beautiful moments because you're living in regret. Regret does you no good, does me no good. And I remember writing that in my journal. Regret is a fool's game because you can't win. You can't undo your past. You can't undo circumstances. Only thing you can do is to move forward better equipped with wisdom and able to make sound decisions much better than you did in the beginning. So that's it. That's my challenge to you. I want you to live a life without regret. It doesn't matter what it is. If you lost a job, you lost your spouse, or if the relationship, your heart, your person is no longer your person, mourn the loss for the moment, but don't stay stuck there. Begin to move forward so that you can welcome your blessings and you can recognize them when they show up. You know, life is so fleeting. There's no guarantee of the next day. There's no guarantee for tomorrow. There's no guarantee of what anything will be. You can only live moment by moment. And in those moments, rejoice, cherish, and love them. And I have to remind myself that a lot. Because I've spent so much time around my husband lately, sometimes I just do not like him. Okay, yeah, I said that, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have a word or two to say about that. But I'm pretty sure he don't like me a lot of times, too. We have just spent so much time together. But even with all of that, I do not regret marrying him because I've grown. I've learned a lot of things from him. And it has allowed me to improve who I am. It has allowed me to embrace the person that I am, to embrace all my flaws, all my faults, and to know that not one particular thing defines who I am. Everything lumped together is who I am, but it's what I do with who I am that's the most important. So I want you to think about that. I want you to grab your journal and write in big bold letters, live life without regret. Please do that. Think about it. You can accomplish so much more if you are thankful even for the hard times. Because the hard times, boy, do they grow you. Boy, do they build you up. And in those great times, that's like warm sunshine. Hey, I don't preach on this podcast. No, I don't. But one thing for me, my faith is important to me. So I think of those good times, those joyous times as, oh, that's God loving me. And of course, on those other times that are just not so good, well, that's just like any parent. That's God chastising me or reminding me who's boss. So live your life. Live it to the fullest. But above all else, live life without regret.